And hello again, dear ones. Robert Brzezinski with you here today, along with my dear friend Steve Andrews. We are the Impact Marketing Collective, and we are so excited to be with you for this Awaken Their Faith, Earn Their Trust webinar. So we've got a great hour or so of content and information for you and an introduction to more of who we are and what we're doing. I'm going to turn it right over to Steve. But before I do that, please, folks, know that we are happy to interact with you today. So join the conversation as we go along. Drop your comments in the chat box as we go along. Feel free to shout out where you are, who you are, where in the world you are, what time zone you might be on, whatever that might be for you. We really do appreciate and love your interactions as we share here today. So many of you probably already know me, and so I'm going to hand this right over to my dear friend Steve Andrews. Steve, it's all you, bro.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, please let us know where you're calling in from today. It helps us to know. We have a plan here for what we're going to talk through, and this is one of my favorite things to speak on. I've spoke on stage on this subject, and I've modified it specifically for New Thought. Really excited to go through this with you. So, hey, Joe, thanks for being here. And please, I'll put our hands up. We probably should have promoted this a little harder. So if you know someone that might be interested in doing this, feel free to tag it, send them the link, etc. Because this is going to give you a framework to change how you bring people to your ministry and how you move things, how you move people from stranger to a big part of your community. All right, let's hop in on the slides, because I know that if I don't go quick, we won't get through this in an hour. We're already wafflers. The British person in me becomes a waffler on these sorts of things, but there's so much content in this one that I really want to make sure we give it time. So, one thing I would say is, if you can, is leave your phone. Put your phone away, remove your Slack messages, your email, your Facebook Messenger. Just leave everything down for an hour here. Spend an hour with us. It's going to open your mind to a lot of different things. And on the back of that, you're going to come up with some ideas to help grow your ministry, grow the people you help. Both Robert and I and a friend of ours, Dr. James Rouse, were discussing how in New Thought, we do a horrible job of marketing ourselves. Tony Robbins has $1 billion business teaching the same things that we're teaching. And Robert mentioned he was recently on Tony Robbins' launch, and Matthew McConaughey was there talking, and talking about being in good, positive mind and all of these things. And someone comments in the chat, "You should start a church." And Robert's like, "We have a church. We have a church that does all of this." So these are going to be some of the techniques to use to help you to find those people who are looking for this, who are screaming for this. And part of our mission here is to help New Thought centers, whether they're Unity, CSLs, Divine Science, whoever else I'm missing, unaffiliated. We're here to help grow this movement, because we believe that as people step into their power, their personal power, as thoughts become things, the world becomes a better place. And we want you all to thrive, and that's the goal here. So if you can, leave things aside. There's my phone. I'm going to throw it all the way back there so I can't see it. I do the same with my keyboard, but I might need it to respond to something here. But I'm happy to be here with you for the next hour or so. So Robert introduced himself. I think most people here know Robert. I'm Steve, so I have a marketing agency called She Reigns Creative. Been in this business now for nearly 10 years, and have helped scale course creators, coaches, e-commerce businesses. I also recently stepped down as president of the board of the Amani Center, which is a nonprofit, well, it's a non-profit spiritual center. It's a it's non-affiliated, so we're an independent center here in Northern California. And I just got asked to come back as the treasurer, so we know how that works. So I'm back on the board as of, I think, a couple of days ago in terms of being back on service here. So
once spirit gets a hold of you, it doesn't let go.
It's true. It's true. There's obviously more work to be done. So I will be back involved more heavily with the Amani Center again on things. You know, they always say if you need something done, ask a busy person to do it, right? So that's a little bit about me. I used to work for the CSU system, the biggest university system in the United States. I did marketing for them and taught online in the early stages of that. So I actually went through a couple of certifications. So that's enabled us to really understand how to work in this information space, which is how we're bringing people in and how we have the ability to raise money for our centers as well. So, you know, you are here, you are in the right place if you feel called to grow your spiritual center, to grow your ministry, but only ways that feel aligned, authentic, and spirit-led. We're not here to give you sleazy marketing techniques or anything like that. We're here to show you how to authentically build a magnetic ministry. We should have called it that, Robert. Magnetic ministry. Write that down. You're ready to expand your reach, not through pressure or hype, but by becoming magnetic to those seeking transformation. You want your community to flourish with intention, supported by systems that make it easy for people to connect, contribute, and stay engaged. And you're ready to step into the role of a recognized spiritual leader, not just within your center, but across the greater community you're here to serve. So many people need us, and we're going to really go into an 8-stage framework that shows exactly what to do that. You want your team and your people to grow together, aligned with a shared vision and a deeper purpose. And most of all, you're here because you believe spiritual leadership can be graceful. You're ready for a path that brings more ease, clarity, and divine momentum to your mission. And then, you know, I always like to pull a quote just to kind of center us. And I swear Marianne Williamson always hits home with these. But, you know, and this is one that's commonly used. I don't want it to become trite for us. But, you know, your playing small does not serve the world. And New Thought centers play too small most of the time. We play too small at the Amani Center. We're going to be playing bigger. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We have noise to make, and we need to make noise, and we need to make noise effectively with the budgets that we can work with. And we're going to talk to you a lot about those sorts of things today. What I'm going to cover: how to show up consistently with soul and structure to build trust and engagement. Nobody trusts anything online, so building trust is more important than ever in these spaces. Strategies to nurture your existing congregation while naturally welcome new seekers. How to create a clear, aligned, and inviting path that guides newcomers from interest to involvement. The power of interactive, heart-centered experiences to create real belonging. And then how to speak directly to the spiritual longings of your community and become the space that meets them. And I'm going to turn it over to Robert. You know, we're both spiritual. We're all spiritual here, and just let him take us into the energy needed to move through this effectively. Can't hear you, Robert. You're muted.
Yes, there we are. All right, here's what I know for sure. There is one power, one presence, one intelligence that moves and breathes and has its being as all of life, not just some of life, all of life. Therefore, we each a conduit of the love and the light and the beauty, the truth and the health and the wealth and the well-being, the abundance, the prosperity, the everything that is life, that is God's life, pouring forth as our lives, as the lives of those we serve, as those that are touched by the messages that are created here through this day, through this process. And I know we have come together in this sacred time to learn, to explore, to come to a greater understanding of how the divine's revealing itself this day in this way, in amazing ways. So I am open, I am ready. The invitation is here to step into a greater understanding, to a greater embodiment of our faith, of our truth, of all that God is. I am grateful to be present to what's happening here and to let it happen. And so it is.
And so it is. All right, thank you, Robert. Okay, so again, let's move into this so we can move through this effectively. So I'm going to talk through an 8-step process that we use, and we call it our customer value journey. While it sounds very e-commerce or anything around that, it's actually built on building trust. And it's actually from a training that we were involved with probably 10 years ago at this point. I was actually involved with a business called digitalmarketer.com. They don't work in the same way right now, although they still exist and they do training around marketing. But they had something called their customer value journey. And this is something that we've adopted over the years to use. And they talk about how it's based actually on the 12 steps of intimacy. And the idea is that there are 12 stages of intimacy, which go from eye to body, eye to eye. So you see someone across a room, you make eye contact with them, then you talk to them. So mouth to ear, it goes through all of these various stages. And while you might be able to miss one or two, if you go from stage 1 to stage 12, which we know where that ends up in intimacy, that's how you end up in court, in trouble. And building trust online, building trust with congruence is similar. If the second that someone walks through your door, you are handing them a donation form or saying, how much can I sign you up for on your regular tithe? You break that trust immediately, just as the same as if you jump those stages of intimacy. So this 8-step process is based on psychology. It's based on building trust. We've used it to scale businesses to $10 million a year. That's the power of this. And what's ironic is, well, someone might think that an ad running to a product would be the most effective. What actually we have shown is that you get a higher return on investment when you send someone to something that builds trust, that then goes through to buying the product afterwards. Literally, a campaign I can think of, 70% of the sales came from people downloading something for free, as opposed to the ads probably gave 15% of the sale, and then a low-cost product gave the other 15%. So this is a great system of building trust. And I'm going to give you some high-level ideas around that, but you can take this and go where you want with it and what's relevant for yours. I think something that's really key to understand is that you may have one main customer value journey, but you might have separate versions based on your avatar. You might find that you're looking to attract more young families. Well, how do you attract more young families? You have to think about it from that time. So your avatar is really important. Did we do a call on avatar? I'm not sure if we did or not, but if not, it's something we should do in the future, because understanding your avatar, even using AI to help generate your avatar, is really important, because you start to understand what triggers them, what makes them want to do these things. And we know this from our audiences, but as you build that avatar out, this whole journey makes a lot more sense. Okay, so the first stage of the 8-step is awareness. So coming back to, we're not going to go through the 12 stages of intimacy, but I like to think of like the first 5 or 6 stages of this as old school dating. So awareness is, you're in the bar, you see someone who's attractive across the other side of the bar, and you're like, I'd like to have a conversation with that person, right? The same thing goes on, with what you're putting out there in the world. So maybe someone is searching for meditation near me on Google. If your SEO is correct, if you have a meditation practice or a meditation class that you teach, you should be appearing there. Okay, so SEO is one form of awareness. SEO is search engine optimization. It's how you show up on Google, on Bing, on Yahoo, on these other platforms. Funny story, while we were meditating and doing these things, we weren't aware of New Thought churches until my wife searched for meditation near me 5 years ago, and that pulled us into the Amani Center. That's the power of these things. So awareness is how you people find out about you. What we often see is people have a great center with a great ministry, but they're not on the high street. And if they're not on the high street, no one's seeing them. And so how do you get seen? How do you get found? If you're an online ministry, how are people finding you? Few things that you could be looking at. So SEO, obviously social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I think people are afraid of TikTok because they think they have to dance on it, but TikTok is actually a really great place to go because TikTok's algorithm works differently to Facebook and Instagram. Facebook and Instagram prioritizes the people you know, so the people you follow, whereas TikTok prioritizes the content you follow. So if someone's already liking Tony Robbins' post on mindset, or the Good Witch's post on spirituality, or a Crystal Woman's things, if you're talking about those same things, you are going to get seen. It's the quickest way to build an audience. It's the quickest way to get found, and a great way of doing things. And often what content you put on Instagram, Reels, YouTube, and Facebook, you can put on all three. We're going to show you a platform later, which is going to show you how to do all three of those at once. So definitely an opportunity. You can run paid ads as a form of awareness. Again, you have to be out there. You know, we're going to be at Pride in Sacramento this weekend as a way of showing a community that we're there to support them, and that there's spiritual offerings for them. We might do a local tree lighting, trunk or treat. There's forms of awareness that are physical as well as digital in this world. Putting posters up, so many different ways, but thinking, you need to go away and think for your ministry, for your church. How are you getting awareness? How are people finding out about you? You know, if you want to talk about a funnel, it's that very top stage. How do people find out about you? Okay. And it's about having the right people, right? It's about having the right people, your avatar, that are coming in and becoming aware of you. Okay, so the next stage is engagement. So this is before you've got the email, this is before you've got a phone number, this is before they potentially even come into the center. It's how you're connecting with them. And back to the bar analogy, this is walking over to that person that you found attractive and saying, hey, how are you? It's getting the feel of someone. So when someone comes in and they've seen one of your Instagram reels, your TikTok, they might go and look at another one and then another one and get to know you. They might comment, they might like, they might subscribe. This is that next stage of warming them up. It's turning curiosity into connection. And so having pieces that drive engagement, things like polls on an Instagram story, things like calls to comment in your posts that you post on social media. You know, you don't always have to be selling, but calling someone to comment, you know, what do you think about what's going on in LA? You know, if you want to incite something around that, around an audience that you might be interested in, or how do you connect, you know, how do you process the energy of a full moon? You know, we had the strawberry full moon last night with all of its energy. Inviting DMs. Hey, DM me this word for my free meditation. There's ways to give things away that can drive engagement, because ultimately those conversations, that connection is that next stage. It's what drives people to connect with you. And so, you know, I think spiritual center overwhelm and burnout can become a big thing. So having the ability to connect more of your team, more of your board, more of your ministers, practitioners into a Facebook business account, so they can respond to those messages, so they can connect with people, because people need connection. In a world where we are more connected than ever, technologically, we are less connected than ever. And people are sending messages between each other that should be said in person. And there's no, you know, communication works that you send a message to a receiver and there's a feedback loop where the clarity is ensued. The problem with a text message, the problem with a Facebook message, is you get the first bit, but you don't always get the second bit, because sometimes someone's reading it and then throwing their phone across the room. That's where what's key. So people want this connection. You know, as I said, we work with course creators and coaches. People don't want to do an online course on their own right now. People are done with buying online courses. People want connection. People want to be able to show up and have discussions and be around people. Maybe it's on the back of COVID, whatever it is, but people are longing for connection.
Mm.
Moving on, subscribe. So at this point, what we're looking for is an email address, a phone number, a connection. So how are you capturing this on the way into the center? If you've got greeters at your door, they start the engagement. That's the first piece, right? Someone found out about you, they come to service, they connect. How are you capturing an email address? Hey, are you on our newsletter list? You know, it's a no pressure thing. We put you on there just to keep updated with what we've got going on. Meditations, manifesting abundance classes, etc. Get your name on our email address. That's how it could happen in person. We have at the Amani Center forms that are literally on the way in, that are right there that someone can do, and a greeter will. We're actually going to implement a kind of a folder for people coming in that's going to have, you know, here's the upcoming classes and events for the next 4 weeks. Here's a donation form, you know, low key. It will be in there though for someone, you know, and it will say this is for later when you're ready to do this, you know, but sign up for the newsletter so that you can build your list and then they can become aware, because ultimately the more points of contact that you have with someone, the more opportunity you have to turn them from just being someone who's potentially interested to someone who's volunteering, someone who's going down practitioner training, someone who's giving regularly. And a big part of that, back to the analogy of the dating scene, this is asking for someone's phone number, right? It's or Snapchat, as I think the kids do nowadays. Can I get your snap? But you know, it's getting someone's phone number in that space. It's having the ability, and as we go through these stages, we're building trust, awareness. Oh, who are these people? Oh, I look at their posts, that resonates with me. Oh yeah, no, I did a full moon practice last night. Okay, great. All right, now I'm on their email list or in their Facebook group or in their community or on their newsletter list. All of these ways are building that subscription and the way to move people through that. Now, in a commerce space, every dollar invested in newsletter in email advertising returns $34 in profit. I don't have the figure for spiritual places, but obviously the power of your mailing list becomes huge, and getting as many people on that as you can so they can be notified. And what we love as well, text message marketing. We get so much better response from text messaging. You know, email, people get thousands of emails a day at this point. Amazon sends me at least 17 messages a day, I swear. So, but text messages will always get my attention. And those sorts of things are there. All right. Moving into our next stage, which we call convert. Again, from a commerce perspective, but this absolutely applies. So what does this look like? Well, at this point, they go from being an audience member to being a participant, to, you know, to tithing, to giving, you know, their talent, to participating. And so one thing to think about here is, well, what's that dip your toe in working with our spiritual center that we can build out here? One of the things that we've done recently, my wife and I taught the Universe Has Your Back class, because there's a lot of people who are in this quasi spiritual space, but they don't realize what there is. So they love Gabby Bernstein, but they don't realize that there's a religion, that there's practices on the back end of that. They've been to Tony Robbins and walked across coals and done all these sorts of things, but don't realize that they could be getting that cup filling on a regular basis and being around people who are vibrating up here constantly and not just going there, that side of things. So what's that first conversion you can get from them? What's that intro class? Could you have some free meditations online, some guided meditations that someone could have access to? Could you have a Science of Mind in a Nutshell class that's there that you could give free access to? You know, ultimately, convert here is a small conversion of time or money. So this isn't regular tithing. This is showing up for something. So I don't know. Maybe your ministers are happy to spend time with new people. Hey, I see you're new. You're new to the center. Would love to set up a coffee, and let's have some time, and then I can learn a little bit more about you. Ultimately, the more personalized your experience can be for people, the more they're going to want to come back. You know, I'm a Dale Carnegie trainer, or I think my license may have expired at this point. But you know, How to Win Friends and Influence People is essentially 100-year-old book, but a lot of the principles of that still maintained today. What many people don't know is that book was written based on 1,000, 2,000 years of journals, of books from other leaders. So what happened is Dale Carnegie hired someone to go out, and they read Marcus Aurelius, they read Lincoln, they read, you know, all of these various leaders from across the times, and they're like, oh, this person's talking about this person's talking about this person's talking about this. And on the back of that, see if I can see my little booklet, I have it somewhere, my golden book, which has got the 30 principles from Dale Carnegie in it. But essentially, those things became the law. They became How to Win Friends and Influence People, and became a multi-billion-dollar business for Dale Carnegie's family at some point. He probably didn't see so much of it in 1924, but I know that franchise system still exists, and franchisees are making a lot of money on it. One of the principles, though, is be genuinely interested in people. Dale Carnegie tells a story in the book of how he sat next to a botanist, and literally spent the whole time asking the botanist questions about, well, how do you know this? How do you do this, etc.? What does this tell you about plants? And the botanist gets up and says, that Dale Carnegie is an amazing guy. He built trust by learning about things. So coffee with a minister, hopping on a call with a practitioner, someone from the board, just learning more about what brought them to the center. Not only does it give you market research, but it also gives someone the thought that I'm not just a number, I'm not just a tither, I'm somebody who's cared about here. What else could conversion look like? So we talked about science of mind in a nutshell. We talked about, you know, entry level classes. You know, coming to one class is effectively a way of getting that initial conversion. You know, showing up for a full moon ceremony, which might be donation based, and throwing $20 in a basket is that initial stage of conversion. It's giving time, it's giving money, it's coming to your service, is this sort of thing. Coming to an event is this sort of thing. Again, it's building trust. You get them into the center, you make them feel welcome.
Yep.
That's moving things forward. The next stage is excite. And I chose the image here, home, because people often describe feeling like they're home, feeling like they found their people. These are words that resonate with me. And knowing those sorts of things, it's really powerful for moving someone and making them welcome. So, for example, and this can be done in many ways. So you can do this through an email sequence. You can do this through text messaging. You can show testimonials of people who came here. You can dig into, you know, you can direct someone to resources that are relevant for them specifically. In person, this could look like you agree to saying, hey, what brings you here? Do you have children? We have a children's church. You should meet Nicole. She has kids that come here, and connecting them with someone who's in their space, who feels like them. We had, you know, we've worked with weight loss people for years. You know, there's a lot of weight loss programs and those sorts of things. The most effective form of marketing for weight loss is for someone to look at a picture of a before and say, that's where I am. If you're a 300-pound guy looking to lose 100 pounds in weight, and you see a picture of someone who's 300 pounds that got down to 200 pounds, you're like, oh, look, he's 5'10" and 300 pounds. I'm 5'10" and 300 pounds. That program works for people who are 5'10" and 300 pounds. And so, you know, at that point, you're bought in. If the person who is teaching it also used to be 5'10" and 300 pounds, you got a home run, because you've got somebody who you can feel that. But if you can connect with people that are new, with people that are similar, introduce someone in that old school networking way. Hey, Margie, meet Jean. Jean's also lost her husband recently, and has started coming to the spiritual center. She's involved with this and this. You guys should meet. Connecting people in that way, setting up integrations, connections with people, making them feel at home is going to excite them. Them going away with a positive conversation is going to change how they feel about your center. It's going to raise their vibration and it's going to have them come back. If your greeter on the other end can be like, hey, Margie, thanks for coming to join us today. How was it for you? You know, because sometimes we need to be reminded about these things. You know, we work with some people who do some amazing work with lasers and with supplementation, but sometimes they have to send emails and follow-ups that say, hey, are you feeling a little, did you sleep really well last night? Probably did, because that's one of the side effects of the lasers. You know, we're doing this, but it actually helps you sleep really well. Or are you pooping really well? Yet the supplementations that we use are linked to that. You know, people, oh, I'm pooping all the time, but they don't often think back to the reason that that's happening. And so if you can connect what's going on, hey, you might, you know, I know for me, going to a spiritual center, I'm an empath. So I know that the days that I go to Armani, I come home tired because I'm picking up everybody's energy. I'm not sure how many of you are in a similar position around that, but when you're around a lot of energetic people, and so you say, you know, often what I find coming away from this is like my heart is full, I'm inspired, but I'm sometimes a little tired. So go home, be restful, put your feet in the ground, feel yourself. And that's a great thing to talk about around full moons. God, so yesterday I was just like, ooh, like I was anxious like this. So it's like, get my feet in the ground, touch a tree, and things got a lot better. But like, people don't necessarily link those things. If you can link them for them, it builds trust. Excite back in the dating space is oh, I just been on this first date. The convert is first date. Excite is excitement after it, right? So you're excited, and then, you know, ascend is when you go into the relationship, which is where we are now. So ascend is essentially the stages to move someone from coming to an odd class, coming to an odd service, to coming regularly, to volunteering, to participating in classes regularly, to leading classes, to tithing regularly. And you need to think about that structure for yourselves. You need to think how you're taking people through that. You know, how do you move someone to become a regular donor? How are you making it easy for them? You know, there's so many examples of this, and there's so much psychology in it as well. Like a donation form, do you have it so that they can fill out what amount that they want? Do you have 10, 25, 50? Do you have 50, 100, 250? Where you put those numbers is going to affect how much money someone gives. You know, you can have 50, 100, 250, and then have other as an option. You're going to probably get a lot of $100 donations because people like to go for the one in the middle. You could also go popcorn pricing. You could do 50, 100, 150, and or 50, 100, 125, and you'll find that people will be like, oh, let's go to 125, you know, from 100. Just like we go for that large popcorn instead of the medium because it's only $1 more, and the value is so amazing, right?
Yep.
The psychology around these things is key. If you want more $100 donations, set it up for $100 donations. If you want to make it feel, and try these things. You know, marketing is about trying, and it's the same thing here. You know, you could try a monthly donation, you could try a weekly donation. You know, if you had it set up as 25, 50, 100 on a weekly basis, for example, well, it doesn't look so bad as seeing 100, 200, 400, right? That seems a lot worse, but I number of memberships I'm signed up for that charge me weekly, and I'm like, damn it, I'm spending that much a month. That should be a week, you know. But and we're not trying to do this disingenuously, but you know, it's that psychological piece of, okay, well, let me set up an auto type for 25 a week, 50 a week, etc. You might find that that's more effective for your audience, and it's more challenge, more digestible. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. The other thing with weekly auto tithes instead of monthly is you get an extra month a year. There's 52 weeks, 13 times 4. So you get an extra month a year. Because people don't think, oh, well, this is a 4.25 or 4.167, whatever it is. They just think, okay, I'm just going to do this on a weekly basis. So it's a good way of increasing your revenue from 12 months to 13 months easily. And you still pay the same you're paying a percentage of your card fees, so it's the same there. So there's definitely an advantage of that. So how are you taking people through these next stages? What does it look like to ascend someone? And I love that word ascend. It just feels so right in this space. But how are you getting to the next stage? How are you actively managing them? One of the things that we're moving into implementing for just a second. I'm just going to shout at my children.
Folks, one of the things that I know both Steve and I love is the flexibility to be with family. And we put a high value on family, much like we put a high value on our spirituality. And that is really one of the things I want us to keep coming back to as we explore these things. Is we're speaking in business terms, we're speaking in marketing terms. Some of the things Steve say might go by and be like, what's he talking about? Don't let the terminology fool you. All of this is built to support you in creating better community, better engagement with your community. And that comes with the flexibility to be at home, and sometimes the dogs bark, and sometimes the kids shout a little bit, but one way or the other, we keep making it on. So Steve, let's bring you back in here. I think just need to you're muted at the moment, so
Yep, I am. Funny story. I was doing a webinar at some point and I thought we weren't live, and I'm just like, I'm going to give you to the count of 3. And I'm like, oh, parenting 101. Life is real. Life is real, and an opportunity for learning all the time. So, but this is, I love what Robert was saying. I picked that up as I was dealing with things in the background there. We are talking about marketing terms, but marketing is just psychology. That's what we're seeing here. It's consumer psychology, and it's the same thing. And I know a lot of people have problems with marketing and privacy and these sorts of things. But what's happening now is no different to what would happen 50, 70 years ago. You'd go to the corner store and, you go, I need some toothpaste. All right, Bob, I see you're here for toothpaste. You had the Colgate last time. You want Colgate again? How's that any different to Amazon being like, here's what you bought last time. Would you like some more of that? Or, hey, we just got this new toothbrush in. I know you love Colgate. This new toothbrush, it's got like 3D stuff and things like that on it, whatever that looks like. It's just automating some of those very human processes that go on in stores that have gone on for years. And what we're looking for here is ways, it's not like we've got a nefarious piece here. We're not trying to sell a Ponzi scheme or anything like that. We're trying to help people vibrate high and raise the vibration on the planet. Just when I think about the opportunities I've had to make an impact, we spoke about Dale Carnegie there. We used to teach that in a university setting, and the university I used to work for is the most diverse university campus in the what do you call it, the
continental US.
Yeah, continental US. Hawaii's more diverse because you get a lot of more international students, but we're in Hayward, which is in the East Bay. So Hayward, the film The Kite Runner was based on a kid that moved to that area. So, you would have people from Afghanistan, India, from Asia, all parts of Asia. I had friends when I was doing my MBA program there from Korea, from Mongolia, from Thailand, from Taiwan, from China, from Indonesia, from Vietnam, all of these places. So it's a really diverse place. But we brought them all together through this Dale Carnegie course. Now, unfortunately, faculty decided it wasn't academic enough, despite the fact we were changing these kids' lives. Like, I had a military veteran, and he'd gone to war because of someone who was a year above him in high school. And that person a year in high school didn't make it back. And this military guy who came in and, was giving it all this is there telling that story, opening his heart, breaking down on those sorts of things. and the impact that that class will have had on those kids who went out, as long as they remember and are using those same techniques, will change the world.
Right.
And that's the opportunity we have here.
Yeah.
But we can't be half-assed about it. We can't be. We need reminding. Even we need reminding. I'm sitting here thinking of that story, thinking, I need to go back. When I'm about to sit down for a tough meeting with someone, I'll read my golden principles from Dale Carnegie, because it will remind me to handle that situation better. And so when I talk about what we're doing here, about the psychology, about taking people through this journey, it's because I want us all to be able to raise a vibration, because I know how much of a better of a human being I am when I'm here instead of here. And I know the effect that has on my kids, who don't get shouted at quite so much, etc., etc.
Yeah.
All right.
Real quick, as you're sharing there, Steve, what I'm reminded of is many years ago in New Thought, the idea that the age of the lone wolf is over, and that we're moving from a state of focusing on the me to focusing on the we. And I feel that right now we're even more in that the build it and they will come age is over in the New Thought movement and in spiritual philosophies. Yeah, we have to build things and we have to have these, but we have to be able to take people by the hand, both physically and virtually, and lead them to what it is that we have built, because the noise of so many people screaming and yelling about what they have built can be deafening if we're not creating these engagements and if we're not creating these relationships. So thank you. I love what you're sharing here today.
All right. The next stage I want to move into is advocate. We don't ask people to do this enough for us. So there's a difference between people who naturally go out, and the next slide I will talk about is promote. In promote, I'm going to talk about promote first, actually. So promote is when people just naturally go out and talk about the center. Hey, you should come to the Imani Center. It's, I do this here. Hey, we've got a class on the 4 agreements. This is coming up. You should do this. Hey, I know you just read Gabby Bernstein's, but we're actually doing a class on it where we implement the actions of it. You should come to do those sorts of things. That's at this point, they're so dedicated to you that they're going out and doing that. They're going out and doing that. Advocate is that stage before. This is where you have to ask, hey, how's your first 4 weeks been with the center? What have you enjoyed the most? Is there anything we could be doing better? Great. Could I ask you, would you put together a testimonial of why you've been coming here? Could you go and give us a Google review? Could you make us a video that we could use in our content? Because we want to help more people like you. And you have to ask. You have to ask for that. And we don't do this enough. Again, people want to see people like them here. People want to see people with their family there. And particularly if we can have something that puts us in a different space, people want to see people like them there. We've attracted more families because me and my family go to a spiritual center. We probably, these are things that need to be implemented and a part of the process that you go through. And it could be an automatic email that goes out that links to a tool that captures video. It could be something as simple as that, or it could be, hey, thanks for coming back again, with a greeter. And maybe you have a spot set up for doing video testimonials, or you have a form that you can send someone to that they can fill out a testimonial. Maybe you have a survey that understands what they found great, and then also the opportunity to ask them, well, what they're looking for, because that way, there's a great book called Ask by Ryan Levesque. It's a marketing book, and it's the whole premises of the book is, if you want to know what your customers want, if you want to be able to support them, just ask them what they need and then give them to it. I got told my first marketing teacher, my marketing management teacher in my MBA program, was this huge guy, probably like 6'8" from Kansas, and he had these huge hands, and he was like, marketing is simple. Find out what people want and give it to them better than anyone else. And And so understanding what why has no one signed up for this class? Well, did you ask people what class they wanted right now? Did you ask people what they're struggling with in their lives right now?
Right.
For some reason, and it's not just in New Thought churches, but people back away from a church when they're not doing well. And why is that? Are we building up a space where people have shame, and shame is something that they're worried about? How can we create a safe space for these people? What can we do to make them feel that, when times are tough, this is the best place to come, not the place that you hide away from? Understanding how people are doing in their life means we can potentially stop them from getting to that shame space. We can change their vibration.
Yeah. I'm always a little embarrassed when somebody stands up or says, well, I've just gone through this whole thing and I had no idea. We could be praying for you. We could be there for you. We could be that sounding board. And far too often, I think people in New Thought feel it's they have failed when they are going through a health challenge or other human challenge. And this is why we're here.
Yeah, I love that. Knowing these things is really important.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of the welcome pack we're putting together. Maybe it says this is this is what in crisis, here's what to do. I remember we got given a Gideon's Bible in high school. I'm not sure if they do that over here, but they came and we all got the little red books, and I think a lot of them got thrown away because religion really doesn't do well in England. But it had a section in the back of the book that's like, feeling this, here's a scripture for that. Feeling this, here's a scripture for that.
Yeah.
And the same thing could be implemented inside of a welcome pack. Feeling this, feeling unwell, going to the hospital in sickness. Here's a place to submit a prayer request.
Yeah.
All right. Let's carry on moving through things here. Just as, we said earlier on, New Thought does a horrible job of marketing themselves. It does. Talking of shame, Brené Brown is the person who talks a lot about shame. But she said that connection is the energy that is created between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. Everything that we've shown you today is all about helping people feel seen, heard, and valued. We're going to talk more and more about AI and training it on your voices, on your messaging at some point, and how we build that into one of the platforms that we're going to talk briefly about today. How do you make people feel seen, heard, and valued? It becomes really important, and it doesn't always have to be 100% done by a human, because we know that people have jobs, families, and already the work for a spiritual center can be extra in terms of what you're doing. But we also know how rich it is. I still remember we just lost a congregant a couple of months ago. She had very aggressive pancreatic cancer, and she'd gone within 10 months. But she found our center a couple of years ago, and we decided to open on Christmas Day. It was a Sunday, and I think they'd never opened before. And I was like, there's people on their own. There's people whose families are on the East Coast, and they potentially can't afford to go out there and do that. So we opened on Christmas Day, and this woman came, and she was going through divorce. It was a hard time. She was on her own that Christmas.
Yeah.
And she was older, so it wasn't, kids were busy doing their thing. And she did spiritual mind treatment with Reverend Mitch, who's now at CSL Grass Valley. He was one of our, he was there on Christmas. We had a good Jewish musician come in who's quite happy to work at Christmas. But being there, opened the center, she took healing from that and became a very active participant until she passed recently, until she transitioned. And that's the impact of the work that we do here.
Yeah.
All right, let's carry on. Why you're here? You're here for peace, right? Because everything that you need to do to build a ministry, to build a center, is a lot of work. And so we're going to talk about some ways to make that easier for you. There are lots of problems that we face as spiritual centers: volunteer burnout. We've spoken to quite a few spiritual centers recently where the tithes aren't matching what we need to operate as a center. There's centers that are looking at selling their properties, that are looking at going to renting, that are looking at renting a room instead of renting a whole property to make things work. Yet there's people crying out for this positivity. And hopefully we've shown you some steps here to how to take people, how to find people, how to move people through this. And we're going to keep showing up and doing these monthly webinars, monthly, 6 weekly, something around that as we fit them into our calendar. We're going to show up and we're going to keep talking about these things. We'll dig more into awareness. We'll dig more into subscription and ways to do that. We'll dig more into these various areas. We'll talk about avatar, but we are facing these problems but they're not problems, they're opportunities, because there's so many people who need this. You know, there's a great book called The Art of Possibility by Benjamin and Rosamund Zander. He does a TED Talk if you want to go and find it. He's fantastic. But he tells a story of two shoe salespeople that go to Africa in like 1900s. The first one goes over there, looks around, and sends a telegram back. No point being here, stop. Nobody wears any shoes, stop. Second one, same thing. They'd look around and they send their telegram back. Great news! Exclamation point. Nobody's wearing shoes! Exclamation point. It's that mindset. It's how you see things. It's a huge opportunity both ways. So while we face problems as spiritual centers, we also facing the biggest opportunity that we've ever had to engage people. It costs $100,000 to be in Tony Robbins' inner circle and go out to Fiji and work with him. It's $6,000 to do Date with Destiny. It's $400, $500 to do Unleash Your Power Within. They have the ability to get that transformational experience with your center on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis in classes. That $500, $6,000, $100,000 could be coming to your center instead. You just need to be out there and people knowing what you're doing. I actually asked AI the difference between Tony Robbins and New Thought, and the only thing it said is Tony Robbins secularizes things, takes the religion out of it. That's the only difference.
The only, yeah.
All right, let's carry on because we're going through. So, you know, with all these steps in mind, we understand these systems. We've got these systems in place. And I want to talk to you briefly about, you know, what services we can offer for you. So imagine having everything in a place to support you or your center's goals. The question is, how do I get this happen? So let's take a few minutes to explore some solutions and how they can support you in bringing peace, ease, and connection into your community. A couple of options here. You can do it yourself. We've given training. We've given training over the last couple of webinars that I know you can go and find that will teach you how to do everything that we do here. But you can take the easy route. We are the your spiritual marketing team. We're the Impact Marketing Collective, and we're working with multiple ministries right now and helping them. What we just did with this customer value journey, we can set up a session and we can actually go through that with you specifically for your center. It's incredible. And typically we do that. I'm going to throw the numbers out there. So in a commercial space, I charge $1,500 for a 2-hour strategy session and $2,500 for a 4-hour strategy session. Some businesses we've even gone up as far as $5,000. I will do a 2-hour strategy session for $500 for a New Thought Center where we build out your customer value journey specifically. I didn't know I was doing this. This was a download. There's no slide on this. This is Steve's head here that's just dropped in. And so you've got this on recording. Robert will immortalize this, but I will do that for your spiritual center. So you can think about the awareness. We can talk about what things that you can implement to turn more people who come into your center into people. We can talk about what classes you should offer. On top of that, we do things like AI system setup. We help with copywriting. We help with social media, video ads, website designs, PPC, which is your Google ads. If you're a nonprofit, I'm not sure whether it works for spiritual or not, but Google has a nonprofit ad program that they will actually give you $10,000 to use for Google ads. And so there's an opportunity for that. Google My Business, if you don't have that, if you're not getting people to put reviews on there, you're not going to show up as high on Google rankings. It's a simple free thing that you can do, but we can help you set up for that. email marketing, and then VA services and more. If you've got too much going on to connect with your audience, you can invest a small amount of money and have a VA to handle a lot of these different things for you. And we can help with any of these. Robert dropped a link in the chat there. If you want to book a consultation with us, you can do that here. We also have our amazing tool, Rule Your Business, which pulls everything together. And I'm going to hop in there and give you a quick look at it here. But here are, the prices on that. What's great about it is it does everything. So you don't need to worry about MailChimp. You don't need to worry about your website hosting. It will do text message marketing. It can do event management. It has calendars. It has forms. You don't need to bolt together 17 different tools here. And honestly, the pricing is competitive in terms of everything you get here for this. One of the other things that's really great is you can do what's called print on demand. So if you have a logo, you want to put it on a shirt, we can connect the Rule Your Business platform to a tool like Printify or Printful. I can't remember which one it integrates with, but then you can just sell that. So you can send people to your store, you choose the markup price, so you could make on merch, and you don't have to go and print it yourself. So it's a drink koozie, a water bottle, a t-shirt. You can add all of those sorts into your spiritual center, your ministry easily. I'm going to hop across and just kind of show a few things. There's plenty of demos out there of us going through these sorts of things, but I will dig in on some in any case. Just have to remember how to use this. Okay, window, there we go. Okay. And then do I have to choose that on my end, Robert, or do you choose that I'm sharing my
can add that here. We'll add that back.
Perfect. Okay, so I just wanted to show this. This isn't built into our demo right now, but this is absolutely within the system. So this is how people book time with me, book a call, schedule a call, book a calendar. So you can easily use this for booking a session with a practitioner, booking a session for prayer. It's something that's set up here as well. I want to kind of touch base on a few different areas, but you have the ability to build out rich contact and have a CRM side of things here. So you can put notes on someone, you can set up if they're a tither, etc. You can send them an invoice. Often you want to send someone to an online class system to set up their class. You can drop a message specifically that says, you can set up a system, for example, that someone signs up on a clipboard at the back of the things, and it's like there's an option to send me an invoice. Grease the wheels, make things as easy as possible for someone. You can have a card on file on here. Checkbox, bill my card on file for the class. The opportunity to make things simple for you are huge here. You can leave notes on someone. You can set up a follow-up task for someone to catch up with. Again, we don't have too much time, so I'm just kind of gloss over some of these things that are in here. It has a whole email marketing system inside of here as well. You can connect all your social media accounts, so you can plan everything in one place. So when I'm talking about having to do TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, well, instead of having to go to each of those platforms, you come to this one platform and it's connected to everything. And so you put that video out and it goes out on those 4 platforms, and maybe it goes on LinkedIn as well. It makes things so much simpler in terms of those pieces here. Even Google My Business is here, right? It's all built inside of those sorts of things. You have the ability to have websites. There's a webinar funnel built inside of here. You can have a blog built inside of here. We have surveys and forms and quizzes, which enable you to get that deep research from people that we were talking about to understand what their needs are. You can have a chat widget, so someone can chat with you on the homepage of your website, and it will come through to an inbox that one of your team can come and respond to. We can set up your users in here, so instead of having 17 different passwords that everyone's trying to keep hold of, a LastPass, literally you can log in here and you can handle email, and you can handle social media, and you can handle text messages, and you can handle Facebook and Instagram messages that all come into this one place here. We have memberships, which includes courses and communities. So you can set up a course in here. So, we are in talks, hopefully I'm okay to say this out loud, but we're in talks with the Emerson Institute about, and they're going to be coming onto this platform. So once they have a pre-recorded course, we'll be able to push it out to people who are affiliated with the Emerson Institute. So maybe you don't have someone who wants to teach health in New Thought. Well, guess what? They've got a pre-recorded course that we can then push into your account. You can monetize it. They get paid whatever they get paid. You get paid whatever you get paid. And you've got that sort of thing. If you create great content, what we're trying to do is create a community here of New Thought centers in this, so that maybe you've got content that you can share. Hey, asking in our Facebook group, hey, I'm running a class on New Thought. Does anyone have any good promotional graphics for that? Yeah, I do. Here's my Canva link. Or I've got a great email sequence. Steve, team, can you copy that into their account for them to use? We're here to help each other grow. That rising tides lifting all ships. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. But you have the ability to do courses, communities, certificates, all of these things in this space here. We really, it is an all-in-one platform for all of these things. But I don't want to go any longer. There's good demos of this that you can see. If you go back to one of our other ones, there's a more in-depth demo. But it's all links around this customer value journey. How are we getting awareness? Well, we're on Google My Business. We're reaching high on SEO because of that. How are we engaging people? Well, here's the social media posts we're posting and the way people are engaging. Here's the free meditation course that we built into the course platform, capturing a name and an email, and then we're moving them through that. How are we getting them to convert? Well, here's the ability to sign up for the full moon and pay a donation of $20. Or here's, coming into service. It's that play between online and in person. But even here, if you know someone and they came in for the first time and you get a newsletter and it was like first time and you put them in there, then someone can reach out to them in a couple of weeks and maybe, say, we would love to see you again. Again, making people feel important. You could build it all within this system. All right. With that in mind,
couple of things, Steve, I just want to add real quick is for people, New Thought Media Network, we've moved on to this platform, and what I want you to know is it looks like a lot, and that's because it is. But the beauty is, unlike other programs, and I've been in the techie side of this thing for a long time, unlike other platforms, I don't have to have absolutely everything in place. I don't have to learn every single module to get the platform up and running. I don't have to have everything going. I can and I have, and this is what we've done, is we've started with the most important parts that we need right away, and we can build and grow with your community as you build and grow. Steve, we didn't really have a chance to talk about it here today, but one of our objectives is that while there is a cost to this program and this platform, the benefits are going to drive this to the point where your investment is negligible compared to the engagement, compared to the increase and the financial increase that you'll see by using these programs. Not having all those passwords, being able to log into one place, it has saved me hours and hours and hours and hours of building what we're doing at New Thought Media Network. Confident that can happen for your ministry as well. I'm going to put a link also in the box right now. It'll show up on the YouTube as a live link. We will be doing this webinar again in just a couple weeks on the 20. I just walked away from the date, the 24th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So it's an evening opportunity. If you'd like to watch it, join us again, or know those that need to see this, please join us for that as well. So.
Yeah, I would highly recommend, we know that people are connected, whether it's through their Unity, whether it's through CSL, whether it's just through, a space that you've taken a course together or been in each other's energy together. And truly the more people that come on board with this, the better this will be. Our goal is for this to be in every New Thought center and to be connected with every New Thought center so we can all raise each other up.
Yes. Right on. And so it is. Beautiful. We've kept you a couple of minutes longer than you may have planned, folks. Thanks for staying with us. Again, links are now in the chat box or the replay of this program. All of our past programs, also our past webinars, are also available on the New Thought Media Network YouTube page. There's a playlist called Impact Marketing Collective. You can check out our past webinars. This has been a great series. This is our third one now, our third topic now, Steve, and it just keeps taking us deeper and deeper and deeper. So again, I want to thank you. I know that not only is your time valuable and you're doing great work in the world in so many different ways with so many different people. Some of your other clients, I think, are watching and chiming along with us in the chat box here today. So taking the time to share this, and what I know is your growing commitment to New Thought centers, communities, leaders, the people of New Thought, to get rid of this old, to change that line that we're not good at marketing, to leave behind the old paradigm and the old concepts of how we engage and reach people, how we build trust, and moving into this in a greater way. So I just want to thank you for continuing to take your time and being a part of this. It feels really, really, we're doing good work. We're doing big work, folks. And we want to make sure that big work and that good work doesn't feel like too much work.
All right, you guys, thank you so much. And so it is, Robert. That felt amazing. So thank you. Thanks everybody for being here, and have a great rest of your day.
Until next time, peace and blessings. Bye now.